expectations for Boston College. Week 1 against Florida State, I'm going to say that's a loss. But Duchesne, sure, I can see that as a win. At Missouri, no. Versus Michigan State, probably not. Versus Western Kentucky, sure. At Virginia, I can see them beating Virginia. Virginia's kind of a team. Okay, Virginia Tech, I can see them beating Virginia Tech. Versus Louisville, probably not. Versus Syracuse, probably not. At SMU, ooh, yeah, I can see them winning that one. Versus North Carolina, no. And then versus Pittsburgh, no. So I can see them being a 5-win team, 5-7, middle of the pack. All right, moving on to Cal. I see them opening off the season with a big win, but then wrong one. We'll put that over Auburn. My bad. So starting 1-1, and then against San Diego State. San Diego State's got a good program. And then versus Florida State, no. Versus Miami, no. And then versus Pitt, no. So, unfortunately, things are going disastrous for Cal. To start the season, they start 1-5. I'll have them lose a tough one against NC State. But then why not? A little bit of magic against the Beavers. Have them win that game at home. Against Wake Forest, yes. Against Syracuse, no. Against Stanford, no. And then against SMU, probably not. So 3-win team, 3-9. Unfortunately, a low-end kind of season for Cal. Cal, to me, I don't think they've made that jump through the transfer portal or recruiting where they're a top team that can compete for the ACC. All right, for Clemson, I have a lot of expectations for Clemson all the time just because of how they've been in previous years, with Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence. Back in the day when DJ Uiagalelei was still there, I thought they could get to a national title. It's definitely a different era with Klubnik at the quarterback. Against Georgia, I'm going to put that down as a loss. I think we're going to see what kind of team Clemson is after the Georgia game. If they can keep it close against Georgia, Clemson might not be back, quote unquote, but we'll see what kind of team they are. But if they belly up, kind of like how Oregon did, I think it could derail a lot of momentum. And this game right here, on the 5th, this is a big game. And especially how it's going to be at Doak Campbell in Florida State. I could see this being a game where, for the remainder of the schedule, the rest of the 7 games, where, oh my gosh, we dropped 3 out of the 7, 4 out of the 7, because we couldn't get it done on the road. At home against Appalachian State. Yep. Against NC State, that's going to be a big game. These games are always close. Same with Wake Forest. Where's Wake Forest? Ooh, that's on the road. This is going to be a closer game. I'll put it as a win, but this game is going to be ugly. And they luck out because they don't have to play Georgia Tech. Usually, Georgia Tech plays them close. But Stanford, I have that as a win. Okay, Florida State, I'm going to mark it as a loss. I think out of Cade Klubnik and DJ Uiagalelei, I think DJ is a little bit more experienced as a quarterback, and I think it's a good revenge story, considering he used to play for the Tigers and then left in the transfer portal. Okay, but against Virginia, I see that as a win. Versus Louisville, I see that as a win. Versus, go back, please. I can see that as another W. So they get back on track. Okay, this Pitt game. One of these 2 road games right here versus Pitt or Virginia Tech, I could see be a game where it's like, oh, whoops, we dropped it. At home against South Carolina, I have them getting the win there. So, 2-loss, 10-2 team. Okay, Duke. Duke's missing some people. I think if they kept Elko and Riley Leonard, I think this team could be a scary team and compete for an ACC title. Well, we're going to just put a loss right here next to the Florida State game. But I do think that they can get a win on Elon. I think they can get a win against Northwestern. I think they can get a win against Connecticut. I think they can get a win against Middle Tennessee. These are programs where it's like, okay, we can get up on them. Just because, Northwestern, Connecticut, and Middle Tennessee, like just program versus program, Duke is a better squad. Against North Carolina, even though that is a home game, Gonna put that as a close loss. At Georgia Tech, I gotta give it to the Yellow Jackets. At home against SMU, sure, I could see that being a win. They gotta go on the road to play the U. I think Miami gets it done. Same with NC State. But then they'll finish out their season strong on a 2-game win streak against Virginia Tech and Wake Forest. And so if we look at it, I mean, there are 5 loss teams, 7-5. At least they're bowl game eligible. But there are some glaring games right here where Florida State, Miami, and NC State. I think those are the 3 biggest games, and those are the in-conference. Like, yes, they lose to Georgia Tech and North Carolina in my own personal prediction, but it's those 3 right there that just kind of derail the momentum of their season. They can probably get 7 wins. Moving now to Florida State. There was a lot of disappointment with how last year ended for the Seminoles. I mean, with the injury to their quarterback, which kept them, I think personally, if Jordan Travis stayed healthy, I do think the college playoff committee would have been, they would have had to make a really tough decision, and I think you couldn't deny putting Florida State in over Alabama. But actually, I think the team that would have got the short end of the stick the most, Texas. And I really think it would have been the same. I think Texas would have been out. Florida State would have went and played Washington, and then Alabama still would have played Michigan. And then Michigan would have played Florida State in the national championship, and who knows what would have happened, because this is a totally different reality. Against Georgia Tech, I think they come, no, I'm messing. They don't come slow out of the gate. I think they're going to have a big year with DJ. Okay, 5 in a row. All right. And now they have the chance to go 6-0 against Clemson. I think to this point, being 5-0 in Clemson, what are they? 1 loss? Yeah, they're a 1-loss team. They're coming in at 3-1. Okay. And then Florida State to this point would be 5-0. This is going to be a top 25 matchup. Give it to the Seminoles against Duke on the road. I can see this being a close, tough game, but I'm going to give it to the Seminoles. Now, these next 3 games, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to just throw it out here. They're going to beat Charleston Southern, and they're going to be at home for the rivalry game against the Gators. One of these 3 games is going to be a loss. I also wouldn't be shocked or surprised if they drop 2 out of these 3 and end the season at 10-2. I think this is that weird game that they drop where it's like, okay, they're to this point being 7-0, they're going to be they're going to be a top 5 team. Okay, but then they'll bounce back and they'll beat North Carolina. They got to go to South Bend and they got to play Notre Dame. I really think the Irish are going to have a big season. So I think the Irish at home late in the year, they're a dangerous squad. And I think this, Florida State versus Notre Dame, I think this is going to be a huge game. I think this is going to have a lot of playoff, possibility. There's a lot of playoff implications in this game. I think it's going to be one of the top 25 games of the year. I mean, Notre Dame might have 2 losses or maybe 1 loss on the season. They'll still be a top 25 team. But yeah, Florida State ends the season 10-2 with, so far, they do have a berth in the ACC title game. All right, let's move on to Georgia Tech. Okay, Tech, no. Against the Panthers, yes. Against Syracuse, yes. Then I'll have them win that one. Okay, they got to go on the road against Louisville. I think Louisville sneaks up on them. At home against Duke, probably not. Because didn't I have Duke win this one? Oh, no. I had Georgia Tech win this one. My bad. Okay, on the road against North Carolina. I think the Tar Heels can get it done. Neutral site game in Mercedes-Benz against the Irish. I think Notre Dame will be too much for them. So they only have 4 more games. They've played 8 so far, and right now they're sitting comfy at 500 overall at 4-4. They gotta go play Virginia Tech on the road. I think that can be a win. They got Miami at home. Skipping ahead a little bit to the Miami one. I'm gonna come back to this one because Miami, This one might be an upset for Miami, or this one might be an upset because one of these two games right here, I have a feeling that the Hurricanes are going to have a better season than the Yellow Jackets, and I have a feeling that the Wolfpack are going to have a better season than Georgia Tech. But one of these two games is going to be the game where, kind of like how it was years ago, where they had that field goal return against Florida State and had an upset. One of these games are going to be the upset that derails either the Hurricane or the Wolfpack season. But then against Georgia, come on, they're not going to win that one. It's probably going to be against the Wolfpack. And so we're looking at probably 6-6. All right, Louisville, okay, against Austin Peay. Give me a W. Against Jackson State. Give me a W. Against Georgia Tech. Give me a W. On the road. Ooh, go back. Against Notre Dame. No way. I think the Irish get revenge. Okay, at home against SMU. I can see that being a win. On the road against Virginia. I can see that being a win. At home against Miami. This is going to be a big game. Hurricanes coming into town. What would their record be to this point? They might be undefeated to this point. Let's say that's a close loss. But then against Boston College, yeah, I can see them getting that one. On the road against Clemson, no. On the road against Stanford, I can see them getting that win. Against Pitt, yeah. And then against Kentucky, yeah. Well, no, that one's in Kentucky. Maybe the Wildcats get, the better of Louisville. So 8-4. 8-4. Nothing to slouch at. That's definitely a bowl game appearance. All right, let's move on to the U. Starting out against Florida Gators. Give me a W. Okay. Week 2, W. Week 3 against Ball State, W. Against the, go back. Against the Bulls, give me a W. Virginia Tech, W. Against Cal, W. So kind of like how years passed. Miami starts out very strong, 6-0. Look at who they play. They should be favored. They're going to be favored in this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Against Florida, I don't know. I don't know the odds. They're favored in the majority of them. Okay, on the road against Louisville. This does have upset written all over it. After the Week 8 matchup against Florida State, this jumps them into the #1 spot in the ACC. Where look at this, they're 8-0. This would make them probably a top 5 team in the country. They'll beat Duke, go to 9-0, and then they'll probably drop a silly one against Georgia Tech. I can see them beating Wake Forest, and then finishing. Wow, oh my gosh. Well, they don't have to play. Look at this. They don't have to play Clemson. They don't have to play NC State. They don't have to play North Carolina. They have a pretty favorable schedule. Miami's going to the ACC title game, and they're getting into the college football playoff behind Cam Ward. I don't know. I have a feeling this one's going to come right back around and nip me in the butt, and I might be really wrong on this. There's no way they go 11-1. There's no way. The hardest road game, I think, is Week 1 in the Swamp. Interesting. Really interesting. Okay, North Carolina. I have that being a W. Against NC State. Against Tennessee, no. Yes. Against Louisiana Tech, yes. Okay, away game, tough game at Clemson. Probably not. So through the first 4 weeks, first quarter of the season, 2-2. Against NIU, absolutely. Against Wake Forest, yes. Against Syracuse, yes. On the road at Cal, oh, go back, you stupid. Oh, no. Against Stanford, yes. Against Duke, yes. On the road at Georgia Tech. Okay, this is November 21st. What was this game? Oh, this was a November 9th game. I was thinking, Georgia Tech, they go back-to-back where it's like, oh, hey, we just upset the U, and we just, oh, it would be back-to-back games for them. Okay. So if they do upset the U, then it's like they'd probably have a lot of momentum and win this game too. Going to Georgia Tech, I can see that being a win. And then they probably drop their last one against North Carolina just because it's a rivalry game. And I personally think NC State should have a better season than the Tar Heels. 3-loss team. Here we go. At Minnesota. I can see that being a win. Against Charlotte. I can see that being a win. Cakewalk at the beginning of the season, starting 4-0. Do I have them beaten? I do have them beaten, Duke. 5-0. 6-0. 7-0. Oh, slow down there, Haas. Hold on. Can they really start 8-0? Oh my gosh, this schedule is very favorable. They don't have to play Miami. They don't have to play Clemson. Florida State's a game late in the season. NC State is their last game of the season. They could have a big year against not West Virginia, sorry, Wake Forest. Yes, I can see that being a win. Against Boston College? Ooh. I do have Boston College losing on their end. Yeah, I think the Tar Heels could take Boston College down. And then against... There's no way. There's no way they only lose one game. There's no way they only lose one game. Just like Miami. There's no way. There's no way. I don't know who's going to win this rivalry game. I have no clue. There's no way they go 11-1. And I have a feeling they're not going to go 10-2 either. They've got to. Which games would they lose? They're going to start 4-0. Oh my gosh, yeah, they have a pretty easy schedule. I'm not going to lie, this is a pretty patty cake schedule. There's no excuse for the Tar Heels not to get to the ACC championship. Looking at this schedule, because Duke on the road, I can see that being a tough game. All right, North Carolina, perfect year for a playoff expansion. All right, let's move to Pitt now. Against Kent State. Yeah. Against Cincinnati, probably not. I think the Bearcats might get them. Same with West Virginia. But Youngstown? Yeah, they could be Youngstown. Against UNC? No. Against Cal? Yes. Who's it? Syracuse? That's Syracuse. I can see them beating Syracuse. At SMU? Yes. Virginia? I can see them beating Virginia. But Clemson? No. Louisville? No. And Boston College? Probably not. So this team, 6-6, middle of the pack. Let's move on to SMU now. Start off strong versus BYU. I can see them getting the win there. Versus TCU at home? Probably not. Versus Florida State? No. At Louisville? No. At Stanford, no. At Duke, probably not. Versus Pitt. At home against Pitt, sure. That's a tough slate right here. TCU, Florida State, Duke, and Louisville. 5 straight losses that derailed all their momentum after going 2-0. At home against Boston College, probably not. At Virginia, I can see that being a win. And then versus Cal, I can also see that being a win. After they lost all momentum, losing 5 in a row, they win 3 out of their last 4, and end the season kind of on a high note, perhaps going 6-6, maybe. All right, let's move to Stanford. Okay, this one's weird because look at this. It goes like it's just home up here, away down here. So I'm gonna look at their home schedule. Home against TCU, probably not. Against that, I think that's Cal Poly, yeah. Against Virginia Tech, yes. Against Wake Forest, yes. Against SMU, yes. But against Louisville, probably not. Now on the road at Syracuse, yes. At NC State, probably not. At Cal, yes. At San Jose State, yes. At Clemson, no. And then at Notre Dame, no. 7-5, which is a lot better considering the fact, didn't they go, oh, let me see what their schedule was last year. Oh man, Oh man, considering they went 3-9 last year, I think that's not too bad. 7-5, have a chance to go to a bowl game. All right, on to Syracuse. For the Orange, I think they can get it done against Ohio. I think they can get it done against Georgia Tech. Against Stanford, probably not. It's Holy Cross. No, whoa, come on now. Wrong one. KW against UNLV. UNLV was sneaky good last year, so I'm going to say no. NC State, no. Against Pitt, yeah. Against Virginia Tech, I can see them beating them. At Boston, nah. At Cal, I can see them beating Cal. And then against UConn, yes. And then at home against Miami. Considering that I had Miami being really successful this season, we're going into week 12. The last game of the season, Miami has 1 loss, maybe 2 losses to this point, versus Syracuse, who has their 4 losses. This has a home upset written all over it. Syracuse, in the past, they have had those big upsets at home against top 15 teams. Look at Clemson. Didn't they beat Florida State a couple years ago? But against Miami, I could see them getting the upset against Miami. So what is that? We got 4 losses, 8 wins, 8-14. Find themselves in a bowl game. Move on to the Hokies. Against Vanderbilt, I can see them beating Vandy. Against Marshall, yeah, I can see them beating Marshall and Old Dominion and the Rutgers. So they start 4-0. Then they got to go on the road and play Miami and Stanford. And I think those 2 games, they dropped 2 real quick. Probably dropped 3 in a row now that I think about it. But then bounce back against Georgia Tech. Ooh, on the road against Syracuse. Now look at that to the Orange. Clemson, no. This right here, though, this Clemson game, this has, hey, let's upset the Tigers and derail their momentum to get to the ACC championship. That's what this game has written all over it. But then against Duke, I think they can beat the Blue Devils. And then against Virginia, I can see them winning that one. And the season off on a high note, 2 wins in a row against Duke and Virginia, 5 losses, so they go 7-5, get to a bowl game. Probably go play a Big Ten team or a SEC team that also ended maybe 7-5, 8-4. Playoff berth? No. ACC championship berth? Also no. Okay, last one. I couldn't get a good graphic for them. It was tough. My Wi-Fi went out. Okay, against AT&T, the phone service, college. No, I'm teasing, but NC-A&T. Why did I put a no? No, they're winning that one. Sorry. Against Virginia, yes. Against Ole Miss, no. Against Louisiana. What Louisiana are we talking about? Oh, the Raging Cajun. Do I think they could be the Raging Cajun? Yeah, I think they could be the Raging Cajun. Okay, against NC State, no. Against Clemson, no. Against UConn, yes. But against Stanford, no. Against Cal, I can see them beating Cal. North Carolina, no. Miami, no. And then, fighting for pride, last game of the season against Duke. Are we trying to get to a bowl game? Are we not? We're sitting only at 5 wins. They wouldn't be eligible to go to a bowl game. They're sitting at 5 and at this point, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're sitting at 5 and 6. Do they get to that 6 and 6? Do they get to go to a bowl game? I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Why not? Finishing the season off strong, going to a bowl game, and then probably getting blown out. Who knows? Probably by Oregon State or something. Maybe a Pac, the Pac-2. The winner of the Pac-2 goes and plays Duke. I don't know. But